With the release of RailClone 6, we've added numerous usability improvements to the style editor designed to help advanced users work more quickly and efficiently. Here are 10 small changes that can make a big difference. 1. We've introduced an option in the Preferences menu that allows you to decide whether segments will be renamed to match the source object. This feature permits you to customize the naming conventions to suit your needs. For example, if I've assigned these segments here specific names to help me to identify their function within the graph, RailClone 6 will now allow me to maintain these names even when selecting new geometry. In previous versions of RailClone, if I selected new geometry, the names would be overwritten. 2. You can now duplicate nodes and wires using Shift and Drag. This function significantly simplifies the creation of new nodes from existing ones. Less obviously, but perhaps even more useful, you can now also clone a wire in the same way. You simply select a wire from an existing input, hold down Shift and then drag it to the new input without having to refer back to its original node. It's a small detail, but it's a real time saver. 3. The introduction of window or crossing marquee selection of nodes is another added feature. It makes it easier to select multiple nodes at once. When this mode is activated, only those nodes that fall completely within the marquee will be chosen. 4. To further streamline your workflow, you can now save presets for drop-down list parameters, making it easier to reuse common settings. To use this, you'd create a new drop-down list in a numeric node, then save it as a preset by clicking on the Save icon. You can then load the list into a new numeric node by clicking on the Load button and importing the file. You could create a folder full of regularly used lists and save a great deal of time. 5. This one's more about aesthetics. We've added the ability to change the wire thickness using a new option in the Preferences menu. It allows you to customize the appearance of wires by choosing from one of 2 different thicknesses to suit your needs. 6. Next, and for me this is a big time saver made possible by the always on top style editor. We've added the option to import the current scene selection to the style editor as new segments or spline nodes. This feature allows you to quickly create new nodes from existing selections, saving you the hassle of manually creating each node from scratch. To use it, just select the geometry or splines from the scene, then right click in the style editor and choose Import Scene Selection. New base object nodes of the correct type will be created and the objects assigned accordingly. 7. The conditional node can now test for multiple conditions using AND/OR logic. This makes it easier to create complex conditions without having to add multiple chained conditional nodes. It'll really streamline your workflow. For example, using this example from the previous exercise, I can easily create a condition that checks for the position of a segment on a spline and/or at the same time the material ID that's been assigned to it. 8. We've added a new option to hide all the wires except for those connected to the currently selected node. You enable this in the View menu or using the keyboard shortcut Ctrl and W. This feature reduces visual clutter, allowing you to focus on the node you're currently working on. 9. We've added several new seed options to the Randomize node, providing you with much more control over when a new random segment is generated. This simplifies graphs, as it's no longer necessary to create this effect using a selector node with a random number node wired to the index input. You'd have had to have done this in the past, but you can now simply use a single random geometry node instead. To visualize how this works, let's use this new facade style that has window units in 5 different lengths. I can choose to generate a new random object per segment, which is how this random number node worked in the past, or use one of these new options. These include per spline start, which when using multiple splines as I am here will randomly select one segment to be used for the entirety of each subspline. Per section, which you might use to randomize a section between evenly or corner segments, each time picking the same segment. In an A2S array, this would also randomize differently for each row. The next option is per Y row, which will choose a new segment to use for each different row in an A2S array. And finally per generator, which we won't cover here but it's primarily used when nesting generators. As you can see, this improvement makes it much easier to determine when a new segment is randomly generated and gives you a lot more control. 10. Finally, for even more control, Both the randomize segments and the random number nodes sync between generators option has been renamed simply to sync between, and it now provides several brand new options. These allow you to further determine how to coordinate randomization between different parts of an array. So to illustrate for this example, I'm going to set the seed option initially back to randomize per segment. Now normally, this would result in total randomization, as you can see here. But what if I wanted to maintain randomization but ensure that it matched across all the rows? So to do that, I'd change the sync between mode to array rows. Now you can see the results. If I'd rather create a randomized pattern that repeated for each section of the array, instead I could choose X section. Now let's turn this off and say that I'm randomizing the pattern for each row again, but that actually I want it to match across the subspline. So for example, the bottom of the building and the second row and the third row all have the same pattern. I can do that now by turning sync back on and choosing between X splines. And you can now see the same randomized segment selection is carrying on across both the subsplines. These options make the randomized segments operator much more flexible, and if you want to use these settings to randomize other parameters of RailClone style, you can do that too. The randomized number node also has exactly the same settings. We hope these less head-turning but quite useful improvements will help you to work faster and more efficiently. If you want to receive updates on all our video releases, consider subscribing to this channel, and stay tuned for more videos showcasing the many features and improvements included in RailClone 6.